General MacArthur broke out suddenly. He exclaimed, "The whole thing is preposterous! Preposterous! Slinging accusations about like this. Something must be done about it. This fellow Owen, whoever he is." Emily Brent interrupted. She said sharply, "That's just it. Who is he?" The judge interposed. He spoke with the authority that a lifetime in the courts had given him. He said, "That is exactly what we must go into very carefully. I should suggest that you get your wife to the bed first of all, Rogers, then come back here." "Yes, sir," Dr. Armstrong said. "I'll give you a hand, Rogers." Leaning on the two men, Mrs. Rogers tottered out of the room. When they had gone, Tommy Marston said, "Don't know about you, sir, but I could do with a drink." Lombard said, "I agree." Tony said, "I'll go and forage." He went out of the room. He returned a second or two later, found them all waiting on a tray outside ready to be brought in. He set down his burden carefully. The next minute or two was spent in dispensing drinks. General MacArthur had a stiff whisky, and so did the judge. Everyone felt the need of a stimulant. Only Emily Brent demanded and obtained a glass of water. Dr. Armstrong re entered the room. "She's all right," he said. "I've given her a sedative to take." "What's that? A drink?" "I could do with one." Several of the men refilled their glasses. A moment or two later, Rogers re entered the room. Mr. Justice Wargrave took charge of the proceedings. The room became an impromptu court of law. The judge said, "Now then, Rogers, we must get to the bottom of this. Who is this Mr. Owen?" Rogers stared. "He owns this place, sir." "I'm aware of that fact. What I want you to tell me is what you yourself know about the man." Rogers shook his head. "I can't say, sir. You see, I have never seen him." There was a faint stir in the room. General MacArthur said, "You have never seen him? What do you mean?" "We have only been here just under a week, sir. My wife and I. We were engaged by a letter through an agency, the Regina Agency in Plymouth." Bloor nodded. "Old established firm," he volunteered. Wargrave said, "Have you got that letter?" "The letter engaging us?" "No, sir, I didn't keep it." "Go on with your story. You were engaged, as you say, by letter." "Yes, sir. We were to arrive on a certain day. We did. Everything was in order here. Plenty of food in stock and everything very nice. Just needed dusting and that." "What next?" "Nothing, sir. We got orders, by letter again, to prepare the rooms for a house party. And then yesterday, by the afternoon post, I got another letter from Mr. Owen. It said he and Mrs. Owen were detained and to do the best we could. And he gave the instructions about dinner and coffee and putting on the gramophone record." The judge said sharply, "Surely you have got that letter?" "Yes, sir, I've got it here." He produced it from a pocket. The judge took it. He said. "Headed Ritz Hotel and typewritten." With a quick movement, Bloor was beside him. He said, "If you'll just let me have a look." He twitched it out of Odo's hand and ran his eye over it. He murmured, "Coronation machine. Quite new, no defects. And signed paper, the most widely used. Make. You won't get anything out of that. Might be fingerprints, but I doubt it." Walgrave stared at him with sudden attention. Anthony Marston was standing beside Bloor, looking over his shoulder. He said, "Get some fancy Christian names, hasn't he?" "Ulick Norman Owen. Quite a mouthful." The old judge said, with a slight start, "I'm obliged to you, Mr. Marston. You have drawn my attention to a curious and suggestive point." He looked round at others, and thrusting his neck forward like an angry tortoise, he said, "I think the time has come for us all to pool our information. It would be well, I think, for everybody to come forward with all information they have regarding the owner of this house." He paused and then went on. "We all are his guests. I think it would be profitable if each one of us were to explain exactly how they came about." There was a moment's pause, and then Emily Brent spoke with decision. There's something very peculiar about all this, she said. I received a letter with a signature that was not very easy to read. It purported to be from a woman I had met at a certain summer resort 2 or 3 years ago. I took the name to be either Ogden or Oliver. I am acquainted with a Mrs. Oliver and also with a Miss Ogden. I am quite certain that I have never met or become friendly with anyone of the name of Owen. Mr. Justice Wargrave said, You have that letter, Miss Brent? Yes, I will fetch it for you. She went away and returned a minute later with the letter. The judge read it. He said, I begin to understand Miss Clathorne. Where I explained the circumstances of her secretarial engagement. The judge said, Marston. Anthony said, Got a wire from a pal of mine, Badger Brackley. Surprised me at the time because I had an idea of old horse had gone to Norway. Told me to roll up here. Again, Wargrave nodded. He said, Dr. Armstrong. I was called in professionally. I see. You had no previous acquaintanceship with the family. No, a colleague of mine was mentioned in the letter, the judge said, to give verisimilitude. Yes, and that colleague, I presume, was momentarily out of touch with you. Well, yes. Lombard, who had just been staring at Blore, said suddenly, Look here, I've just thought of something. The judge lifted a hand. In a minute. We will take one thing at a time, Mr. Lombard. We are at present inquiring into the causes which have resulted in our being assembled here tonight. General MacArthur, pulling at his mustache, the general muttered, Got a letter from this fellow Owen. Mentioned some old pals of mine who were to be here. Hoped I'd excuse informal invitation. Haven't kept the letter, I'm afraid. Wargrave said, Mr. Lombard. Lombard's brain had been active. Was he to come out in the open or not? He made up his mind. Same sort of thing, he said. Invitation, mention of mutual friends. I fell for it, all right. I've torn up the letter. Mr. Justice Wargrave turned his attention to Mr. Blore. His forefinger stroked his upper lip, and his voice was dangerously polite. He said, Just now we had a somewhat disturbing experience. An apparently disembodied voice spoke to us all by name, uttering certain precise accusations against us. We will deal with those accusations presently. At the moment, I am interested in a minor point. Amongst the names recited was that of William Henry Blore, but as far as I know, there is no one named Blore amongst us. The name of Davis was not mentioned. What have you to say about that, Mr. Davis? Blore said sulkily, Cat's out of the bag, it seems, I suppose. I'd better admit that my name isn't Davis. You are William Henry Blore? That's right. I'll add something, said Lombard. Not only are you here under a false name, Mr. Blore, but in addition, I have noticed this evening that you are a first-class liar. You claim to have come from Natal, South Africa. I know South Africa and Natal, and I am prepared to swear that you have never ever set foot in South Africa in your life. All eyes were turned to Blore, angry, suspicious eyes. Anthony Marston moved a step nearer to him. His fists clenched themselves. Now then, you swine, he said. Any explanation? Blore flung back his head and set his square jaw. You gentlemen have got me wrong, he said. I have got my credentials and you can see them. I am an ex-CID man. I run a detective agency in Plymouth. I was put on this job. Mr. Justice Wargrave asked, By whom? This man, Owen, enclosed a handsome money order for expenses and instructed me as to what he wanted to do. I was to join the house party, posing as a guest. I was given all your names. I was to watch you all. Any reason given? Blore said bitterly. Mrs. Owen's jewels. Mrs. Owen, my foot. I don't believe there's any such person now. Again, the forefinger of the judge stroked his lips, this time appreciatively. Your conclusions are, I think, justified, he said. You like Norman Irwin in Mr. Brent's letter, though the signature of the surname is a mere scroll of Christian names, are reasonably clear. Una Nancy. In either case, you notice the same initials, Ulick Normal Owen, Una Nancy Owen, each time. That is to say, UN Owen, or by a slight stretch of unfancy, unknown. Vera cried. But this is a fantastic mad. The judge nodded gently. He said, "Oh, yes, I have no doubt in my own mind that we have been invited here by a madman, probably a dangerous homicidal lunatic.